One of my favorite people in the world, and I've never met him in person, but I've only spoke to him, and he's the kindest human being that I could possibly think of. Bob Socci, he's a New England Patriots radio play-by-play voice and one of the best at it in the business. Bob, how are you?
I'm great, Ajay, but I was a bit confused there with that introduction. I was expecting you to throw it to somebody else, but it's good to be with you, and I hope you and everyone listening is doing well. Obviously, these are difficult times, but everybody out there, hope you're all safe and sound.
Let's start there, if I may, Bob. What is the atmosphere like in New England with this whole coronavirus and kind of suspending a lot of NFL spring, if you will?
Yeah, well, it's been really and it's not just with the news we're going to get to momentarily, and I'm going to start with the sports angle first. I'm going to work in order of unimportance to the important matters. Over the course of the last few weeks, Red Sox fans have seen Mookie Betts traded, a very popular player here, part of a World Championship, and of course, one of the great icons in New England sports history, if not the person who would be the first to go on that Mount Rushmore of Boston athletes, if you will, with Tom Brady signing with Tampa Bay, or at least announcing his decision to leave with the Patriots, and then coming to an agreement with the Buccaneers. There's been really a surreal feel around here sports-wise, and it has coincided as well with what the nation is dealing with in terms of the ramped-up efforts because of the spread of the coronavirus, and in particular Boston as a hub of medical teaching hospitals and medical innovation, and as a place where we've seen the number of positive cases increase pretty dramatically, and over the last few weeks, and leading to really major changes in the way we go about our lives, like elsewhere. We've had our schools shut down now. This is the first full week that our schools have been shut down here in my town outside of Boston, and we've seen the effects start to take hold in other ways too. And for me personally, my wife is in the medical profession. She's on the front lines of this. So I've had a dual experience of trying to keep up with what's taking place in the two worlds, my relatively unimportant world of sports, at the same time as I tried to follow the latest developments from news sources on the coronavirus. And at the same time, of course, have had a peek at some of her preparation and what she's experienced thus far. So it's been a time that we'll get through, I hope, and prosper from. But right now it's pretty grim. It's a pretty grim stretch.
Well, your wife is one of the greatest heroes right now in the world, who is dealing with what they've been dealing with for as chaotic as things are right now in this country. But from a sports perspective, Bob, New England in that area, the Boston area, has relished in championship glory since 2001. As you mentioned, one of the greatest icons in not even just Boston, but in sports history, in Tom Brady, the Boston Red Sox, Boston Celtics. Now Mookie Betts is gone, Tom Brady's gone. How cautious and how worried is this Boston area rabid fan base right now that we might be back to the years before 2001?
Well, you probably know, Ajay, that folks in these parts are prone to overreactions when it comes to the sports teams. And we have been very spoiled. In my 7 seasons alone calling Patriots games, I've had the opportunity to call 6 AFC championships, 4 Super Bowls, and 3 titles. Yeah. And over the course of the last 20 years, of course, the Patriots have gone on this dynastic run that is unprecedented, and I think in all likelihood never duplicated in modern sports, especially given the landscape of the NFL and the nature of the NFL. And Tom Brady, in particular, has been, I think, the classic Boston story of a guy that was overlooked when he came out of college and probably written off by just about everybody as the 4th quarterback on the team in 2000, and then, of course, in 2001, a fresh-faced kid with a backward ball cap leads the Patriots to that improbable win over the St. Louis Rams, and is adopted by New England as a favorite and blossoms into the greatest quarterback of all time. We believe in these parts. And, along with Bill Russell, I think when you look at the 2 greatest champions in team sports in New England history, and arguably, I think, in major American sports history, Certainly, Tom Brady and Bill Russell are in that conversation. It's been quite a jolt. Fans here, I think there's been so much speculation about Brady's future over the course of the last couple of years, and in particular, it's been a narrative that has been concurrent with not only this season all year long, but really going back to the end of the 2017 season, when Brady would re-up after 17 and 18. The nature of the contract, the terms of the contract would lead to a lot of questions. How much longer is he going to play? The age of Brady as well. How long does he want to play? How much will he play? With Belichick's track record, will he let him go when it's too soon, before it becomes too late? Or will the Patriots do something differently with Tom than they have with other athletes, other players under Belichick's tenure? And as it turns out, the team is consistent. Belichick is consistent in his style. They couldn't come to terms last summer. Looks like what Tom's going to get from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is reflective of the Patriots' position, where they're working to overextend themselves, and it's always been a value cost determination here with Belichick, whether he wants to keep a player or move on from that player. And but with Brady in particular, again, it's not entirely a surprise because we've heard so much about it, and there were a lot of signs there along the way that this was a very real possibility, whether we wanted to believe it or not. And in my case, I tended not to believe it, but here we are. And I think a lot of people are trying to get their heads around it. But there's been so much going on too that it's been, I think, a situation where people are trying to keep it in perspective. But when one play does resume in the NFL, and we turn back a little more attention to the sports headlines, and then I think it may really, really set in for a lot of people. And as far as the Patriots are concerned, there's always been that question: who's more important to the success of the team, Belichick or Brady? And I think it's a debate that you really can't win. I think each knows and has known that he needed the other, and each has been equally important to the success of this team. But that's going to be a big part of the conversation here locally going forward.
I got to ask, as you mentioned, you've been calling Patriot games and watching the greatest of all time, competing on the football field for the past 7 years. What game, non-playoff, would you say is the greatest you've ever seen him play?
Oh, boy, there's so many great games that he's played, and in my 7 seasons alone, and to say one over any others is really, really difficult. I think there's a game that stands out for me in my first year. Actually, there's a couple that first year. One, I think people know because of the reaction by my broadcast partner, Scott Zolak, which went viral for reasons.
I think I know where we're going with this one.
Yeah, and it was a game against the Saints early in the season. It was the same Sunday, by the way. I think it was David Ortiz at a grand slam against the Tigers in the American League Championship Series. So it was a great day in Boston sports, and the Pats were unbeaten, the Saints were unbeaten. It was early October. And Drew Brees had come into Foxborough. The Saints had a late lead, a narrow lead. Looked like the Patriots had squandered their last chance to come back and win it, and then they got a break because the Saints didn't run out the clock and had to give the ball back to the Pats. And Brady, I think, threw an interception, and it looked like it was over. And then, remarkably, the Patriots got the ball back with one last chance. And he had people like Austin Collie, Michael Ho'omanawanui playing tight end at that point. There was Kenbrell Tompkins, who was an undrafted free agent as a wide receiver, and basically with no timeouts and 70 yards to go, and however much time was left on the clock, Brady led the Patriots to a game-winning touchdown on a throw to Kenbrell Tompkins, which led my partner to start screaming, "Show ponies, unicorns."
Where's the beef?
And where's the beef? Exactly. So that's one that stands out. But I think the game that I would point to was a little bit later in the season. It was against the Denver Broncos. It was a Sunday night game. And the Patriots in the first half turned it over several times, and the Broncos built a 24-0 lead on a windy, frigid night. It was really an unforgiving night for the quarterbacks, especially. And it was the Broncos with Peyton Manning, and also that remarkable start with that storied offense. They wound up breaking all of the Patriots' 2007 records, basically. That year, they had this 24-0 lead, but then Brady leads the Patriots back in the second half, and the Pats actually take the lead and then relinquish it and then get the game tied and goes into overtime. And on a punt in the wind, Wes Welker, and it was after Bill Belichick on the coin toss, decided to punt it away, kick it off to Denver. The Patriots took the win because of the conditions, and Welker couldn't feel the pause and wound up hitting one of his teammates. The Patriots recovered, and they wound up kicking a field goal to win it. To think about the game and the circumstances, frigid, windy, unforgiving, down 24-0 to this high-octane offense from Denver, and Brady comes back and leads the Patriots again with a cast offensively that wasn't rich in talent in a lot of ways. So from that first year of 2013, for me, those are two regular season games that certainly stand out.
I still remember when in that Saints game when Brady threw deep to Edelman, and Edelman had turned the wrong way, if I remember right, and it was picked off. And I remember Scott Zolak saying immediately after, "That's probably your ball game." I think he said that a few times in a few different games, but that one I was like, "Gosh dang, if he's saying it now, it's got to be over." And that was in clutch.
Yeah, the Saints game, it was like three last chances to win it. And one of the great things about that particular game was that Brady was mic'd up. And NFL Films did a terrific job of chronicling that win, that comeback, particularly with the cast of players that surrounded him in the huddle. And it's a testament to what he did for so long for this team, lifting players that were in the eyes of a lot of people around the league, pedestrian, or at least certainly not stars, and like all great athletes, all great winners, making them better. And, as the quarterback of the Patriots, you think about the success that he had, all the Super Bowls, all the championship games. I think about a game in the AFC Championship that he lost a couple of years ago, in which he really didn't play particularly well for much of the day because he was constantly being beaten. It was against the Broncos at the end of the 2015 season. And the Patriots had an offensive line that was injured all season long and really beat up. And the Broncos had Von Miller, and they were able to tee off on the quarterback. And the Pats were down, and Brady somehow managed to get that team back in the game, and within a 2-point conversion of tying it in the final 12 seconds. And as much as the wins, that kind of effort, that kind of game where he was always in it until the end. That's one of the things that stands out to me. There's never been a better competitor in the NFL, I'm sure, than Tom Brady. Just the way you could look at Michael Jordan in the NBA and the compete level of the legendary practices. That's the same with Brady in his career as a Patriot.
Bob Socci, the radio play-by-play voice of the New England Patriots, joins us here on the Full Court Press. Bob, what is your first, or I guess your most memorable interaction with Tom Brady off the field?
I shared this earlier today a little bit with Richard Deitch on the Athletic.com. He contacted a number of New England media to ask us to give advice to our counterparts in Campus St. Pete. And one of the things, and I felt reassured afterwards because I thought it was a consistent theme throughout with a lot of my colleagues here. One of the things that's always stood out to me about Brady, given the transcendent life that he leads. Of course, people know him as a football star, but there is also a large percentage of our population that knows him as Gisele Bündchen's husband, and know him from the commercial endorsements, and know him because of the looks and things that are related to his football career, but not necessarily have to do with his everyday duties as a football player. And, one of the things that has stood out to me in the 7 years that I've been around with limited contact, I know Tom, I don't know him well. He knows me. We've done some things together with annual Q&As at the stadium, or, being around the locker room and the team as I have. You get to know somebody a little bit. But he's always been the kind of guy who, in passing, would see someone, whether it was the radio broadcast or someone on the media relations staff, and just somebody working around the stadium in any capacity. And he's the kind of guy who looks you in the eye and says, hi, and knows your name, and makes you feel like, you're important to him. And I think it's quality that leaders exhibit, people with charisma. And that's one of the things that I think about with him and his teammates. You never hear a current or former Patriots teammate say really any disparaging words about Brady, and they often talk about him as a person being better than him as a player. And I can understand that just from those very small interactions. It may not seem like a lot to people listening, but I can assure you, in fact, we probably all could recite any number of people in our lives who, are maybe more accomplished or even less accomplished than we are, and don't take that time to say hello and acknowledge us. And in the case of Tom Brady, it probably as grounded as anybody could be, given his fame and the celebrity and a lot of the people that he's usually associating with outside of football. He's still the guy that took time to recognize and I don't mean this in a belittling way, the little people who are around him. He seemed to take a genuine interest in them.
I got to ask, where does the New England Patriots go from here?
That is the $1 million question. You asked me earlier about the reaction of the fans and whether they're optimistic, pessimistic, or just where their minds are at, where our minds are at these days as we look ahead to the future. It looks like right now that they have a quarterback who has promise in Jarrett Stidham, and you hear a lot of behind-the-scenes reviews from teammates and other people around the organization that he really made a lot of progress last year during the regular season. I thought he certainly played well in the preseason, all things considered. And he's someone who came out of Auburn, I think, with a pretty big upside in the eyes of a lot of draft evaluators after a disappointing senior year at Auburn, and had he played as well as he did as a junior, might have been a first or second round pick. So they've got somebody, I think, who entering his second year is a quarterback they like a lot. And they have Cody Kessler behind him. There's been a lot of names that have floated around they might be interested in, whether through free agency or a trade, talking about veterans, some journeymen, some quarterbacks who might have just lost the starting job for the first time. You've heard Peter King mention Andy Dalton's name in the past, and he's a guy that's often talked about here these days, and it's really an unknown. They're losing a lot of people these days. They've lost Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins, along with others defensively. They have made a trade with the Lions to send Ron Harmon, who's played a lot of snaps in the secondary the last 7 years, with Brian Flores in Miami, Matt Patricia in Detroit, Vrabel in Tennessee, and Joe Judge now in New York, all former Patriots or former Patriots assistants. A lot of players who are landing in those locales, and it's going to be interesting to see what this team does. But with Belichick, you never want to count the Patriots out. The division certainly, I think, is going to be a lot more strenuous looking ahead. For the Bills, it's all a matter of whether Josh Allen can develop with Diggs now and their defense. They're getting a lot better around him. It's going to be up to him. And with the Dolphins, I think the way they finished last year and a lot of the things they've done this offseason, it really bodes well for Miami. So the Patriots are going to have the work cut out for them, that's for sure.
I have a selfish question to ask you. I stalk you on Twitter like crazy,
Sure.
And I see all your jogs and your runs and all the great sites you go to. I'm actually hoping with a friend to be in Boston this summer. What were some of the places you would suggest to go see?
In Boston, I think there's so many. Boston is a great sightseeing city because it's a small city. And it's a place where you can literally walk from one side of the city, the waterfront, the North End, which is a great eating area, or the Freedom Trail, which of course includes some of our most historic sites here locally, across town and through the Common, and eventually work your way to some of the high rent shopping districts on Newbury Street and the Back Bay of Boston. Great restaurants, so much to see in really a pretty small geographical place. But I think you start with the history here. You start with Faneuil Hall. You start with the Freedom Trail itself, and get all the designations there. Spend some time in the Common, and enjoy some of the great food in Boston. I had an opportunity to not too long ago speak to a group of college students who were up from the University of Mississippi, and they were here on probably our coldest day of this winter. And they were visiting. They were doing some research for a sports conference, and they were having a blast. So they seem to enjoy it, and I think anybody that comes to Boston will as well. There's so much to do, so much to see. Go whale watching, hit the aquarium, great museums, great colleges, and it's a place that I love.
Because as a diehard Patriots fan who lives in Utah, you don't find any Patriots stuff here, so I have to do all my shopping on Amazon. I can't wait to go to Boston and find real good stuff of Patriot stuff everywhere I go. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, you're gonna find a dearth of number 12 jerseys perhaps here. It's gonna be really strange.
That's awesome.
There might be a lot more number 4 jerseys available next year, Ajay.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much for your time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I took more than I requested of, and you were so kind with it. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome. And again, I wish everybody out there the best. And you guys have gone through a lot of late, and whether it's the coronavirus or other challenges in Utah. So thinking about everybody out there, and appreciate the chance to talk with you.
Hey, give your thanks, or give our thanks to your wife for doing what she does as well.
And a lot of people out there, from grocery store workers to truck drivers to waste management collectors, first responders, people in the medical field, doing their part.
Bob, God bless. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Socci.
All right, take care.